At 3:42 p.m. local time, September 17, 2025, the waters of the Taiwan Strait were calm. Too calm. On radar, the sea looked empty, but deep below the surface and across the horizon, tension was about to spike. The USS Higgins, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, was performing a lawful freedom of navigation patrol. Nothing unusual, until it was. Suddenly, the bridge radar caught a blip. A Chinese Type 052D destroyer, codenamed Luyang 3, was turning, not parallel, not passive, but directly toward the Higgins. The angle wasn't defensive, it was deliberate. From the Combat Information Center, a calm voice broke the silence. Contact altering course, CPA under 200 yards. 200 yards. For civilians, that might sound like plenty of room. For two 7,000-ton warships, that's a heartbeat from collision. The Higgins attempted to hail the Chinese vessel over bridge-to-bridge radio, first in English, then in Mandarin. Silence. No acknowledgement, no deviation. The destroyer kept closing in, bow pointed directly at the Higgins, moving at over 25 knots, roughly 29 miles per hour. That may not sound fast until you realize it's 7,500 tons of steel designed to hunt submarines, fire missiles, and, if commanded, ram enemy vessels. Inside the CIC, the Spy-6 radar tracked every movement, heading, acceleration, distance. But what truly chilled the room wasn't what they saw, it was what they didn't hear. No call, no signal, just silence. This wasn't shadowing, this was a test, a calculated move to see how close China could get to a U.S. Navy destroyer before something snapped. Because in these waters, when two steel beasts close the distance at combat range, there's no such thing as a harmless pass. At 3:43 p.m., the radar showed something even more alarming: acceleration. The Chinese destroyer wasn't just approaching, it was speeding up, from 21 knots to 24.4 in less than 30 seconds. That's not patrolling speed, that's intercept speed. CPA down to 185 yards, the bridge officer called. Time to CPA 2 minutes. If that number hit 0, collision. Bridge to bridge went out again. Unidentified Chinese naval vessel. This is the United States warship conducting lawful transit. Alter course immediately. Still nothing. Inside the Higgins, the crew was calm but razor-focused. Everyone knew the stakes. Silence in naval language isn't confusion, it's defiance. Command tagged the vessel. Track 052, Type 052D, Luyang 3, People's Liberation Army Navy. Now the 052D isn't a pushover. It's China's workhorse destroyer, armed with HHQ-9 surface-to-air missiles, YJ-18 anti-ship missiles, and a 130mm deck gun. In short, it's built to fight. But the Higgins wasn't backing down either. Her 5-inch gun slewed slightly toward the oncoming ship, not loaded, not threatening, just enough for the gesture to be unmistakable. Every second was logged, every heading, every radar return, every fluctuation in speed. The Higgins held course, because if they flinched now, they'd lose the narrative, and worse, they'd set a precedent. This wasn't ship versus ship. This was China betting the U.S. wouldn't risk escalation. And the Higgins, she was calling that bluff. By 3:44, the situation crossed the line. The CIC confirmed it. The Chinese destroyer's trajectory remained intercept. No deviation, no radio contact. Intentional. The crew moved with precision. Rules of engagement, the ROE, are strict aboard U.S. Navy destroyers. Step 1, log everything. Step 2, posture without provocation. The Mark 45 gun rotated slowly, a visual deterrent without being aggressive. Step 3, non-kinetic response. The Higgins activated its SLQ-32V7 electronic warfare suite. Within seconds, it picked up a narrowband radar signal from the Chinese destroyer, a surface search scan, frequency and pulse width confirming it wasn't passive, it was active targeting. "They're watching us," the watch officer said quietly, "but they're not talking to us." Still, no raised voices, no panic, just discipline. The bridge maintained heading, the engine room held speed, fire control plotted firing solutions but kept them in standby. The goal wasn't to fight, the goal was to be ready. At that moment, the standoff wasn't about weapons, it was about will. Then, 3:45 p.m., the air filled with rotor wash as the MH-60R helicopter, tail number Romeo 52, powered up from the Higgins deck, not armed, not aggressive, just a message. The helicopter climbed to 200 feet, circling the Chinese ship, its FLIR pod scanning in infrared. Every movement, every crew member, every shimmer of heat on the deck recorded in 4K. 2 Chinese sailors stood near their forward gun mount, helmets on, motionless. The helicopter's camera zoomed in on the bridge windows. Still no response. No lights, no Morse, no flags, just reflection. Inside the Higgins, a choice loomed. Hold position or push through. Holding meant shadowing, showing restraint. Pushing through meant risk, but also strength. Every option had a cost. Every second mattered. Legally, the Higgins was in international waters, 18.4 nautical miles from any claimed baseline. Every move she made was by the book, but legality doesn't stop steel from colliding. The tension was thick. The CIC called again. CPA under 150 yards, 1 minute to intercept. The sea had turned into a chessboard, and both sides were now one bad move away from checkmate. At 3:47 p.m., it happened. The Chinese destroyer blinked, a subtle 5-degree turn starboard, barely visible to the naked eye, but enough. The speed dropped from 26 to 21 knots. That message was, "We've made our point." Moments later, the bridge speakers crackled. A filtered voice in Mandarin came through. "U.S. Navy vessel, you are approaching a Chinese-administered maritime zone. Alter course immediately." No emotion, no threat, just the words Beijing wanted recorded. The Higgins replied calmly, "This is a United States warship conducting lawful passage in international waters. Unsafe maneuvers are being documented and reported." Translation: "We're not moving." The Seahawk recorded everything, the words, the radar, the maneuvers, and then, for the first time, movement on the Chinese deck. The crew backed away from their gun. One sailor raised his arms, palms open, the universal sign, "We are done here." But they weren't retreating, just repositioning, slowing the tempo, stretching the tension. Both ships remained on radar, both ready, both waiting. This wasn't surrender, it was performance, a stage play written for cameras and satellites, for domestic headlines and global viewers. Because what happened that day wasn't random, it was part of a pattern. For months, China had been pushing, shadowing U.S. ships, harassing Japanese destroyers, forcing Australian patrols to maneuver away. These weren't isolated incidents. They were gray zone operations designed to apply pressure without crossing into open war. It's a strategy built on proximity and persistence. Get close, push hard, make it look routine. In August 2025, the British destroyer HMS Richmond was cut off near the Spratly Islands in nearly the same fashion. Cameras captured every second. The Chinese frigate turned, closed, and then broke away, just close enough to make a point. A month before that, a Japanese P-1 maritime patrol aircraft had to divert after being buzzed by a Chinese J-11 fighter aircraft over the East China Sea. Tokyo filed a protest. Beijing ignored it. The U.S. Navy has seen this game before. That's why every American warship in the Pacific sails with legal teams, surveillance drones, and electronic intelligence suites running 24/7. Because in the modern age, war isn't just fought with missiles, it's fought with narratives. If the U.S. follows the law, it wins the diplomatic war. If China provokes a reaction, it wins the propaganda battle. So what happened in the Taiwan Strait wasn't an accident. It was a rehearsal, a real-world test of nerves, legality, and control in the world's most contested waters. By sunset, both ships had moved on. The Higgins maintained course. The Chinese destroyer veered east, its radar fading into the background noise of the sea. But no one on board relaxed, because in modern naval warfare, these encounters don't end with the turn of a rudder, they end with the next move. The U.S. Navy knows that in the age of